if you're just joining us, we're talking motion usability Q&A, specifically right now, how to sell motion to stakeholders in a way that they understand. I'm going to post this link here. This is just a free download PDF. You can just do that. Okay, great. So you have this free download, and it's basically a script. So during the workshop, we do a role play where you'll just kind of make up the information here. But essentially, you want to speak to, like, you know, the metrics, the data, and if you don't have those things, it's good to just go out and like try and do some research, make a case. What you don't want to do is like pitch it by saying like, hey, you know, motion would be really cool. You know, our users would be entertained, you know, all this kind of stuff that really doesn't matter so much to PMs. They want to know, like, okay, what is this going to get us? What's the value? Because there's always a cost benefit. We could be building a feature, right? So perhaps there's a conversion instance in your product that just could be better, and the screen designs are good, but maybe just the transition just isn't that great, and so the users are getting lost. You could focus on that, and you know, first talk to your like engineering team, make sure they can do it, because you don't want to be like, hey, I think we should do this thing, and your, you know, PM is like, awesome, let's do that, and then they try and, you know, they put it on the roadmap, and then you talk to your like engineers, and they're just like, dude, our platform can't even support it. Like, there's literally no way for us to do it, even if we wanted to. So that would make you look pretty dumb. So don't do that. So if you're thinking of doing something, go talk to your like engineering team first. If you don't know who they are, go find out who they are, you know, and just be like, hey, show them some examples of stuff online. Having had a design PM or UX PM. Yeah, well, sure. I mean, this is true for just in general, right? Because look, you don't want to be pitching stuff that there's just no way to have it get made. And I did a workshop at a huge company. I think they're like a Fortune 500 company. Everybody wanted motion. And guess what? There was too much legacy in the system. They just couldn't build the kinds of things that they wanted to build. So if you're just pitching that stuff, you know, make sure you do your homework, make sure it's possible, have that conversation with your PM. Just posted that link. You can get that free little script there. All right, let's talk about some, let's see here, how to hand off small UI animations that can't use Lottie, like button behavior, panels opening, etc. Yeah, this is a really good question. So if you're unfamiliar with Lottie, first of all, you should be super familiar at this point. But if you are unfamiliar with Lottie, let's just take a quick look. If you go to LottieFiles.com, and I'll just share this link as well. This link is awesome. You will find, let's see here, go to my chat. All right, everyone, Lottie Files, awesome. You will find that there is this platform called Lottie. It allows you to create like animations specifically from After Effects, which is what I teach, which is freaking awesome. All kinds of stuff. A lot of it's crappy, but a lot of it's really, really important and cool. But it's sort of good for certain things, right? So it's not good for dynamic transitions. So if you have content that's dynamically generated, you know, and you want to design transitions that way, you're really not handing off a Lottie file. Lottie files are great for icons, for buttons, for like full like animation, like for the what's that cool meditation app that everybody uses, Mindhead or Mindspace or Headspace thing, Headspace. And, you know, those could all be Lottie files where it's just rendered out, you know, onboarding screens, pull refresh, all that kind of stuff. But for transition things, you know, that's a different beast, right? So, yeah, I've seen everything from literally like redlining, right? So you'll just like, you know, put out the screens in like a Figma file and then just redline and put in, you know, the actual properties that change. I've seen people who will actually build like a like animation with like a timeline, and they'll just kind of spec out all of the properties that change, so it's all visual and it's like animated. This is why motion standards are awesome, because if you're able to go to your like engineering team and say, use easing curve number 3 and, you know, duration number 6, that's pretty cool. That's powerful, because then you'll get things built one-to-one. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth, good communication. It's not typically like the only way you can hand off a complicated file like that and walk away and just kind of mic drop and be like, okay, this is going to turn out awesome, is if you've done the legwork with your engineering team so that you have the rapport, they know what to expect, and there's no friction. So this, if you're invested in this, which I highly suggest you be, because then you're going to be the person who's getting all the motion made in the product, and you're going to be a rock star and you'll get promoted and everybody will love you, then you just got to plan on investing some time with your like engineers, you know, and just like have some brown bags, say, hey, look, let's do this. And if you want to make a compelling case for motion to your engineering team, the motion and like usability workshop is also great for that as well. So that's super helpful. Okay, how do I make transparent backgrounds when exporting to Lottie? I think I'm missing a step somewhere. It's by default transparent if you didn't know that. So let's see here. I don't know why they're struggling with that one. I may have to get back to that. Okay. AE move files cannot be opened in QuickTime. Is there a workaround? Should I use ME to export a different format? That's a weird technical glitch. That's a very rare thing. Most people haven't had that. Let's talk about making a transparent thing though. Let's just do a quick, let me demo that in After Effects for you. So if you are using Lottie, I'll just make something really quick and just show you how to use the LottieFiles plugin, which is a free plugin. If you click that link to LottieFiles, you can download the plugin. It's free, and you'll be able to just export from After Effects. It's amazing. I'm going to make something really dumb right now and then just show you how to use it really quick. So, okay, so we're in After Effects here. Oh, and here's a free iPhone template. I've created this, and I'm going to, let me just show you this real quick. This is like a free After Effects template here. And I've created these presets. So for dribble, 800 by 600, square, insta large, HD, square, insta small, 4K, and 1080p. Let me just show you real quick. This is really cool. So I'm just gonna send you this zip file right now on the call. You'll be the first people to have this. But the way this works is if I just wanted to import a project and say I have this project here, I just go to my replace layer, click this, replace the screen here. And this is the most recent tutorial I just put out yesterday. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. It's really cool. Let me just do stop sharing. I'll just do share desktop instead so you see everything. If you go to YouTube, you can watch it there. And if you're not following me on YouTube, you definitely should. Let's see here, my channel. So it's this one right here. It's how to create a 3D Instagram transition in After Effects. This is really, really cool. But if we're in After Effects here and you're importing this project file, and you can see this is like a cool 3D project that I show you how to create. We'll just do a little custom view here. And you're like, look at that. You made a cool 3D shape using some photos of my cat. So I replace this layer here. Now, when I go to these iPhones, it's just across the whole thing. They're already baked in, and now you can just choose which one you want to render. And it's all set. It's all just plug and play, drag and drop, and you get all these, so you can just render these out for your presentation and show them in context. So let me just give you that zip file link, and then I'll show you how to do a quick Lottie thing using the LottieFiles plugin. We're going to go to here, and let's see here, iPhone template. Yeah, we're just going to copy this Dropbox link. All right, I'm going to go to my chat. So here's this. Feel free to download it. Enjoy it. Awesome. Got a free zip file for being on the call. All right, so we're back in After Effects. Can everybody see my After Effects here? I just want to make sure. Can I get like a thumbs up or just a yes from somebody who's like, I can see your After Effects screen. Yes. Okay, awesome. Cool. So let's just build a quick thing here. Let me get some of this Zoom cruft out of my grill. Okay, so say I have a, let's just do 1920, 19. Okay, so say we have a thing, After Effects composition, we're at 60 frames a second, and I'm just gonna do just a really simple, like, let's do this, and we're just gonna draw this out. Okay, so say we have this here, and we're going to do like a quick transform. Let's see here. So let's just do like a roundness, right? So if you don't know how it works in like After Effects, there's two kinds of shape paths. There's parametric and there's Bezier. The parametric ones actually have animatable properties like this. So I'm like, okay, cool. I made this stupid thing, and it does that. We're like, awesome. Now, I have this LottieFiles plugin, and I'm just going to log in real quick. Okay. And I'm going to copy this. And so if you haven't downloaded the LottieFiles plugin yet, don't worry about it. Okay. So here's the deal. Let's see here. Let's pull this out. All right. So LottieFiles plugin. This is how you make a LottieFile quick and dirty. So we call this comp 1. We're just going to preview it. That's the thing. So there isn't really a colored background by default. You can just change the color of the background in the plugin right here. So I just want to show you that if you're getting some background, you may have a background layer turned on. All right. Let's admit this person. Okay. Back here. Check in. Got an LOL from people. Yes. All right. People can see that. Okay. Let's see what other questions we have asked. Okay, what is your process for designing motions for like interactivity? So I pretty much just specialize in After Effects. That being so, they're not truly interactive. I'm putting together a Figma workshop using LottieFiles, where we take our Figma file, bring it in After Effects, animate it, bring it back as a Lottie into Figma. So that would be kind of some of the process. I typically don't do true like interactive prototyping. That being said, most of the people who I talk to who I consider to be the best are using like Protopie, Principle, and Framer. And in terms of the ideation process, in the workshop that I teach, I have a 10-step like ideation process. I'm probably going to do a blog post on this as well. But essentially, one of the key things that most people sort of mess up is just looking for affordances and like signifiers in the UI and using that to inform the design. And then they usually don't think of it too thoroughly. So one of my principles for designing motion is to think like a like engineer, which means you have to be responsible for every property that gets animated in your motion. If you don't think of it, you're like engineers will, and that will turn out either way, good or bad. If you're just joining, feel free to unmute yourself, turn on your camera, say hi, ask me a question. I've covered a whole bunch of stuff. You'll get a replay email from this. I have a few more questions to get through. Let's see here. Let's see okay, another question, how to get getting stakeholders buy-in motion design project. If you haven't seen the link in there, I posted the link in the chat, posted in the replay. It's a script for making a compelling case for motion to your stakeholders and PMs, work for engineers and your design team as well. Covers ROI, metrics, resources. These are the things that these folks care about, not just whether or not it looks cool. They want conversions. Imagine that. So don't be the person who's like, we should do cool stuff. And they're like, yeah, you have no idea what my reality is, do you? Don't be that person. How can someone figure out the proper timing of any micro interaction? That's something you're able to figure out as you practice. Yes. So again, in the motion standards course link, I believe I provided here, it has how to sell motion. Did not post that link to the motion standards. I'm just going to post that link if you're interested. But let me talk about that really quick. So the idea, again, behind motion standards, the core idea that you just want to focus on is that you want your animation to be tight and crisp without being abrupt or too slow. So as ballpark numbers, you want your transitions for mobile to be under to be a third of a second or under. That's it. If your transition is a second, you got to cut it in half. And it depends on how much real estate it's traversing, right? So if it's like a full screen replacement, that's going to be a third of a second with easing. Don't use like linear curves. For a little switch, that's like 100 milliseconds. That's like a tenth. So it's like just like a soft cut. Again, if your transitions are taking half a second, a full second, heaven forbid they take 2 seconds, you got to like really like do some soul searching. This is a process, you know, like when I first started, I'd be like, you know, maybe half a second, and I'd be like, that's pretty tight. But then as I keep doing this and I keep designing, and I, you know, taught a course on motion standards, you know, I was like, wow, you can really get away with a third of a second. Like your eye can track it. It's close enough For desktop, it's the same thing. You really don't want things to take a full second for a transition. It's just not cool for your users. They will hate you. Okay, question. I'm more into UI designing and creating animations for an app or website. So my question is, how important is it for someone to learn about animations who's into UX design? Yeah, so look, it really just depends on what your goals are and how you want your career to go. Do I think everybody should use After Effects? No. Does every team need to use like After Effects? No. But does every team need to be thinking of how this screen connects to this screen for the user, like how the task flows from A to B? Yeah, absolutely, right? If things are just completely bizarre and that you're not focusing on the transition between those things, then that's a problem. So, when I talk to hiring managers, when I talk to PMs, I mean, I've been like interviewing PMs and team managers at places like Apple, Google, Facebook, Microsoft. These are like the top people designing the top products that you see. They're like, yeah, our designers who can think in terms of like how these screens connect temporally using motion, guess what? They're more valuable, they're cooler. So, it is a skill. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. It can't make you a worse designer. Let's just put it that way, right? Probably won't make you a worse designer. Okay, let's see here. Bunch of questions here. Do you need engineers to build animations? Do you use SVG animations? Do you use Adobe Animate? I've never used Adobe Animate. I found one person who's used it. So that's cool. I tend to stick to the tools that most of the people who I think are badass are using and use those tools. So again, After Effects, Framer, ProtoPie, Principle, kind of the top ones for designing motion. Let's see here. Light animations. Okay. How to use Lottie framework. In your opinion and experience, is there a market for just delight animations, UX character like animations, or are they the worst paid part? I love this question. Are these the worst paid types of animation you can do? Probably. Yeah, I would have to say that's probably the worst paid part of animation that you could be doing. Here's the deal. Yes, you can do those. And I think as a more senior UX designer, or if you're just looking to expand your design practice and like offer more, I would encourage you. So there's probably two ways to go about this, right? One is you can just be the best person at designing those icons in those character like animations. You can design really good ones. Now that's a very competitive market because there's a ton of highly skilled animators who are moving into this space. I prefer to really figure out how motion can add value to the product. That's a totally different conversation. That's what hiring managers at tech companies are looking for. That's what people like product owners are looking for. They're not looking to just solve this icon thing. They're looking like for a person to come in and say, look, how can motion add value to the user, the product, and the business, right? Like if you can have those conversations, you're going to get hired, right? So, and again, I've got this half-day workshop that I've taught to tech teams that teaches you how to do that. Super not pushing it. It just happens to be there's nothing else out there. And this is literally every conversation that I've had with people at high level, companies I put into this workshop. So it's half day live over Zoom. You can take that if you are so interested. But yeah, I mean, you're probably the worst paid part for sure. Okay, when you build or get the prototype design in XD or InVision, do you sketch out all the transitions in After Effects separately to give them to the engineers? They will get a lot of separate movie files. And last but not least, how do we get the certification? Okay, so yes. So this is like what I consider to be a huge rookie mistake that people do is if they're working on 5 animations, say, in a user flow. Yes, it behooves you to show the full user flow. They do this, they do this, they do this, they do this. And to place that into one demo, absolutely, and present that. Now, when you're ideating, when you're designing, and when you're handing off final deliverable, I would definitely not do that. Now, the reason is because on the upstream, when you're doing the like ideation, there's so much deep versioning you're going to be doing. And this is what, this came out of the conversation with Gary at like Apple. It totally confirmed my process, which is like, you're just trying to get the perfect, most beautiful curve, duration, the smoothest way. You may do 20, 30 versions if you're psychotic like me before you get to that final one. And so you don't want to have a full demo with each transition that you're working on, because it's going to totally hose your timeline every time. So you want to like work on these things individually. You just really want to go deep with each individual one during this sequence. And when they're all done, sure, put them together, absolutely. But then when you're handing them off, you want to be able to have a design system where you're like, this is transition 1 for this, and here's all the specifications. Okay, engineering team, take that. Now work on this next one. Now work on this next one. And you can also give them the full user flow as context so they understand it, but I would definitely break things up and work that way. I see people doing this all the time. They'll show me stuff. They'd be like, dude, what do you think about this transition here? And there's like 5 things, and you can't pause the demo and go back and scrub through it because it's just so long. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. You're talking about I need to analyze each one of these individually to give you an opinion and then assemble them all together. So that's kind of a higher level way of looking at it. As a UX UI designer, how do I know? Is it from I'm going to butcher your name. And as a person whose name gets butchered, I am so sorry. Priyanshu. As a UX UI designer, how do I know when and where to implement motion to support usability, and how to make portfolio on these things if I'm starting as a designer on a path to graphic design, UX, UI design? Yeah, so a couple questions. So one is like just the usability component, right? So if you haven't read my article on Medium, go read that. If I look on Medium, just pull this up real quick. I'll just post that in the thing. Let's see here. Creating usability with motion. All right, it's only up to 700,000 views, I think, which is totally psychotic. Okay, so go read that. Talking about, usability. How does motion make a better product for users, product, and the business? I would start focusing on those 3 things, really. When I talk to PMs, they're like, dude, you can't just make cool stuff or you're going to get siloed. It's not going to work. You really have to work with the product design team. Think about the cognitive load, think about task domain. All these things are critical. Make better products, make better conversions, make happier users, right? And so that's really important. If I'm working on a portfolio, you definitely want to show your constraints in your portfolio. This was a major theme that came up when I talked to hiring managers. It's not just enough to see cool random motion. No, it's good to show that and show that you have the capabilities and the skills, but put context and say, look, I'm showing you a bunch of cool stuff, but just know that I know that these aren't representative of what would be a good product experience. I just want to show you that I can do these techniques. Now, if you're working on portfolio pieces, you want to talk about constraints. Talk about like, these are the user constraints. These are the platform constraints. These are the design constraints. This is the timeline constraints. These things are important because if you're just showing a bunch of crazy stuff, it doesn't demonstrate that you have the capacity and the ability to work in a real world context. These things are super important. So, and if you haven't watched the interview I did with Jennifer Darmour, one of my friends who's a VP at Oracle, go watch that because she just busts out so much solid gold. Here, I'll post that link right now for you. This was like the most crazy solid gold. She's just a genius person. So here's a link. Go watch that. Do yourself a favor. You'll be like, oh, got it. Just like how to use motion in your portfolio right there. She just crushes it. All right, let's move on. How to sell consultancy animation services. Yeah. So again, there's 2 ways. You can be the best at animating, which God knows that's stressful. Or you can just be competent, but focus on the value. Because not a lot of people are in that space. Not a lot of people. A lot of people now can animate thanks to School of Motion. Great programs. They're cranking out amazing animators. But not a lot of people can speak to the value of the product, which is what you want to be able to do if you want to get the job or outcompete. If you're a freelancer and you want to have these conversations with clients, you're like, look, you can go with a person who can deliver a sick animation, or I can work with you to figure out how we can use motion to really deliver value for your business, and people, it freaks them out. They're like, oh, what? Yes. How can I hire you? How to approach clients to offer services related to UX UI. Yeah, so part of it's educating, because I do know that a lot of hiring managers and PMs still think of motion as just like a cool thing. So you want to be able to at least kind of, I think, meet like a solid ability to like animate. You don't have to be great, but you don't really have to be for these things, because you're designing transitions, right? They just have to be clean and tight, motion standards. Good visuals help a lot in your portfolio. And if you're just like a UX designer, or say you're a motion designer, right? I've talked to so many motion designers who are like, dude. So if you're a motion designer and you're like, dude, I don't have good assets to like animate, do yourself a favor, go on to Dribbble, find some amazing designers, reach out to them, say, hey, I want to just collaborate. Just give me your design assets. I'm going to work up some motion stuff. I'll let you use the motion workups in your portfolio. Do whatever it takes. Get on the court, but you have to have really compelling visual design assets. If they look, rookie, if they look ghetto, if they look like they're from the 90s, like that's going to blow you out of your like interview. You want to have really good visuals. At the very least, go and buy like a UI template toolkit. They're really cheap for Figma or XD or Sketch. Get that, really beautiful design assets, and then start building transitions between those screens. But don't use really bad visuals. I've seen a ton of motion designers. It breaks my heart. They just don't know what to do. And so they do these motion studies, and it's hard to get past because the motion has to integrate with the visuals, with the UX, with the user experience, with the tasks. If you're just designing all this random motion stuff, it doesn't connect. It's not going to make a better product. You have to be able to demonstrate your capacity and ability to do that. Okay, another great question. The use of animation apps is only for companies with a high level of design maturity. So definitely not. That's a good myth to bust on, right? I've seen tons of products that are not mature that use motion. Some use it very well. Some use it horribly. And so there isn't really a correlation there. I have to say Lottie makes it a lot easier to drop in a cool icon like animation, or a cool onboarding screen, or a cool tooltip, or pull to refresh, or a cool skeleton loader. All these things that Lottie is really good at, cool loading like animation for sure. For core transitions that require much more tighter collaboration with the engineering team, maybe a little bit more mature. But I also know that new products, as they're coming out, people are thinking about that. They're thinking, how can we make really, really good products and have these transitional moments, these key moments feel really, really good. So they're thinking about that sooner in the process. So I would definitely not say that like it's a more mature thing. More mature companies are definitely focused on research and conversions and using motion that way for sure, and making sure they feel contemporary. I've talked to product design teams that are quite mature, where they're like, our product doesn't feel contemporary now. It just feels incredibly static. So that's a modern or mature product design teams that are like, oof, kind of missed the boat. So they're catching up on that, if you will. So that's the questions I have for you today. To recap, we covered a whole bunch of stuff. And again, if you're on the call, feel free to turn on your video, ask me a question, unmute yourself, type a question in here. Let me know what's going on. Hopefully you're doing okay since there's a global pandemic. We're doing better. There were California fires, which are super scary. My family got evacuated, and we know people who lost their houses, and like it was nighttime at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There were crickets chirping, which was insane. My number one rule during this time, just take care of yourself, so mentally, physically, emotionally, those things. So stay busy, work on your physical health, your mental health. I started meditating. I woke up at 6:45 this morning to do meditation, live meditation. It was awful. I hate waking up that early, but I feel better. So just, got to get through it. People are going through a lot of stuff. You really got to take care of yourself so you can stay on the court during this time. Get a pet. If you don't have a pet, you got to get a pet. Important. So yeah, thank you all for being on the call. Is this session recorded, available for replay? Yes, you'll be getting an email shortly after I post this, a bunch of links and all the good stuff. So thank you so much for being here. I didn't get any questions from anybody on the call, so I'm going to assume you got your questions answered. I'm assuming nobody's wearing any clothes because all the cameras are off, so that's fine too. you know, nobody's wearing pants anymore in this time. So you just see people from like, you know, from here on up, like I would not want to be in the business of selling pants right now. That's for sure. Anyway, so thank you so much. I hope you all are doing safe, taking care of yourselves and your families and friends, and you'll get the replay. All right, take care. Bye.